Hello, my name's James Truepenny. Welcome to Bomcast. I would like to welcome my co-hosts, Chris Lonsdale.
Hello.
And Sophie Brumby.
Hello.
You may be asking yourselves, why are you doing this again? And believe me, we asked ourselves it too, and we thought, why not? This is the 15th anniversary of Brig Music Club this year, and we really enjoyed doing Bomcast back in the day. And at a Let's Rock Cancer show, I think it was in February, Chris came up to me and said, let's do Bomcast again.
I did that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a really cool idea. And Sophie was like, I'd like to do that again too.
Excellent.
So, the three of us have decided to come up with a bit more compact and bijou version of Bomcast than we used to do before. Semi-professional. We've got, like, you know, a running order and stuff. We have ideas and things, whereas before we tended to just bat on for an hour or so and edit it up into 3 chunks so you could listen to it. We essentially want this to be a nice little podcast you could stick in the car on the way to work and listen to and drive into episode 2 on the way home.
Other modes of transport are available.
Yes, buses, bikes, helicopter. I would suggest you don't listen to it whilst on your bike. That could be dangerous.
Or flying a helicopter.
Or flying a helicopter.
You probably need to hear the radio transmissions.
Yeah, and you know, safety warnings not to use in modern aircraft. That's not so much of a problem, but in older aircraft you shouldn't listen to. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so we have a rundown for you this evening. This is for the show, which will be on the 6th of May this week. So we will have Who's Playing What, the news desks, which will be news items from around the musical world. The legend of, this week the legend is of...
emo.
Okay. The booking sheet with Sophie Brumby, and this week's subject on the booking sheet is...
Social networking.
Okay. And finally, show and tell. So, we will get on with that in a second. And now we will move on to Who's Playing What.
Who's Playing What?
On Who's Playing What this week, we have Amira, Burning Sun, We Were Infinite, and Megaphone Diplomacy playing the Let's Rock Cancer show on the 19th of May. £4 entry fee, 7:30 doors, a Lincoln Imp in Ashby Scunthorpe. They have more bands to come as well. It should be a fun evening and raise some money for a great cause. And on this month's Brig Music Club show, we have Dynamite, the Brig Music Club house band, Sheriff Lone Star and the Deputies of Heartbreak. I feel that might be the deputy of Heartbreak. Plus more to be announced, and that is free entry at Britannia Inn on Roby Street in Brig on the 30th of May. Show starts at 8 p.m.
Who's Playing What?
And now the news desk. News. This is the news for May the 6th, 2012. This week's news is dominated by the death of Beastie Boys vocalist Adam Yauch after his long battle with cancer. 47-year-old left an incredible legacy in music, film and activism, and of all of us here at Bomcast, we wish his family well. Thank you, MCA. Much more than one NSC. John Lydon reported this week the Sex Pistols turned down the Olympics opening ceremony because the IOC wanted to censor them. And really, that is what I instantly think of when I see an opening ceremony. It's be so much better with the Pistols. To be fair, any opening ceremony would be much better with some form of spontaneity, but that's a fight for another day. Lydon accused the IOC of killing the honesty of the Sex Pistols because they wanted to take the word vacant out of pretty vacant. The IOC have quite understandably left the matter alone, partly because no one at the IOC knows who John Lydon is. The leaders of this year's Kerrang! Readers' Choice Awards are Yumi at 6. Nominated for Villain of the Year is Justin Bieber. Why any metal fans care that much about Justin Bieber to give him any form of award is unreported. And that's the news that's fit to print for this week.
The Legend of...
This week's Legend of is...
Emo.
Why emo, sir?
Why? Because I think it's got a really bad press because the goths got hold of it, I think. Originally, emo was described as emotional hardcore. That's where it came from originally. It's an American, sort of almost college rocky type music that kind of came out of grunge. Kind of a bit sort of math rock. It was kind of intellectual hardcore with a bit of obviously emotion thrown into it. Decent, great vocals, simple. It could be almost anything. That was the exciting thing that I found about it when I first sort of started listening to that kind of thing. Anything could be classed as sort of emo, so long as it wasn't the punk that you remember or metal that you remember. And I think the first band really that I kind of listened to that were classed as emo was a band called Jawbreaker. Now they started back in, God knows, I think it was early 90s, maybe something like that. Pretty straightforward punk rock band of the time, but kind of graduated into become something more under the sort of guidance of a guy called Blake Schwarzenbach, who was the singer and primary lyricist and songwriter. And it kind of took off for them when sort of like Dookie came out and Nevermind came out and that sort of thing. And I think it was Geffen were looking for the new Nirvana sort of thing. And I don't know why, but for some reason they picked on Jawbreaker. And Jawbreaker did an album called Dear You, which is a fantastic album. It's a really, really good album. If you haven't got it, pick it up. It's seminal. It's an amazing album. And that died the death. It didn't do anything, didn't go anywhere, and that seemed to be kind of it, really. But you look sort of later on, you get bands doing a similar sort of thing, but from different angles. And there's a band called Sensefield, there's a band called Texas Is the Reason. Actually, I should go back a bit. The band called Sunny Day Real Estate from Seattle, who were sort of almost pre or about the same time as Jawbreaker. That sort of progressed into almost sort of more melodic stuff. We were talking Jade Tree, which is a record label. Another record label called Deep Elm, who put out bands. I think they did Texas Is the Reason. They did a band called The Promise Ring, very, very good band. And that's kind of when I stopped listening to it. Because sort of later on I kind of noticed that the term emo was being bandied about more and more and more and describing more and more different things that I didn't recognize.
I have to agree. All of those bands that you listed had an effect on bands I liked,
Yeah.
which is the next era on the where emo split from being a musical style into being a lifestyle,
Right.
I would say, to me, because, as everyone knows, I love the Ataris, but the Ataris did a song called Broken Promise Ring. They covered Jawbreaker. They were very much of that mould, but in a more traditional punk
Have I got
setting.
my history right, bud?
You've got your history right, yes,
Thank
definitely.
you. That's all right.
In
me. I'm-
a more kind, no, you're correct. In a more kind of punk setting, and they did do emo stuff on later albums as well, as they kind of got bored of the 4-chord punk bash out songs. But that's to me where things separated, where you had the emo bands look of floppy hair, skinny trousers, etc., which became part of an identity and a label for a whole generation of people, which there's nothing wrong with.
Where it was okay to wear glasses and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas previously only Milo from The Descendants did that. And then everybody stole his look. And strangely enough, everybody's wearing Milo glasses these days, even young children. Which
And yes, and I suppose it's the burgeoning move towards the hipster movement.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see as well, there's a kind of a metal influence as well to what people call emo now, which I think may have come from the more hardcore side, or maybe it's just metal, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was a term called screamo that came out sort of the early time, where the vocal style was loud, you know, the loud, quiet thing, whereas you sort of do a thing and then you just start screaming.
Yeah.
That was kind of indicative of the way emo kind of went. And I can see that influence coming through to sort of more modern bands as well.
Yeah.
You know, that it kind of irritates me now because it's been done to death, but everybody does it.
Yeah, I know.
Rise Against do it. You know, everybody does it now. It's just de rigueur.
Yeah.
Rise Against do it well.
Yeah, I like them. They're okay for a modern band. I went to see them in Sheffield, and they were pretty damn good. And the guitarist used to be in Hagfish.
Right.
Who were an awesome band. You know, I was pretty sure at the gig I was the oldest person there.
Yeah.
And the only guy that probably recognised that the guy was out of Hagfish and knew who they were.
I think the whole kind of like emo movement, in the lifestyle term, not in the traditional music style term, kind of reached its zenith with Fall Out Boy to an extent, even though they weren't really... I don't think they were really an emo band, and I think they'd be the first to admit they weren't an emo band.
I thought they were a pop-punk band.
They were a pop-punk band, but that emo label, which is...
For a while, being a pop-punk band was really unfashionable.
Yeah,
You couldn't
and
just do the Green Day thing anymore.
No.
'Cause everybody had done it and had to do something slightly different. And
I suppose there was probably about a 3-year gap between